Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. I know it's what four past 4:30 in Iran, and you have some celebrations coming up. So I really appreciate the time that you've taken. So uh, here is the outline of my talk today. So I will briefly talk about us. So Nova Scotia, Halifax, Dalhousie University, and then our SPARKS research group. And then after that, I will move on to the research areas. It's one slide, but that explains a bit of what we do and what we really want to do in the future. So you'll probably see that there may be some areas of future collaboration. So that would be interesting. And then after that, I've selected three topics, three issues, groups of papers that I would like to talk about. So, fair trade, pre sorting in closed loop supply chain, and the retailing of remanufactured products. And then I will end with concluding remarks. Okay, so a bit about us. Nova Scotia, as you can see, it is a very small province in Canada. It is in red on the east coast of Canada. So Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories, and it's about 10 million square kilometers. So Nova Scotia, with about 55,000 square kilometers, it's really small. It's the second smallest province. The population reached 1 million in December 2021, and recently. So that was a really a nice threshold to cross for us, and but it tells you how small it is, and not highly densely populated. Nova Scotia was inhabited by the Mi'kmaq people before the European arrived, and you can see on this slide a picture of two Mi'kmaq women in the traditional dresses. Now, Halifax is the capital city of Nova Scotia. The population is about 440,000 people. So again, you can see it's not Toronto, it's not Vancouver, it's not Montreal. Right? It's really small. But again, that makes it nice to live. It's not too small. It has that really nice, quiet, but still vibrant feel to it. And because we are on the East Coast, there is the Atlantic Ocean, so the weather is not as bad as central Canada. Very quickly, the demographics. So you can see that in Halifax, it's a very diverse population. Of course, it's Canada. So the language is spoken in Halifax, almost 90% English. There is a small percentage of people speaking French. Canada is bilingual. I am from a French-speaking country before I immigrated to Canada, so I speak French myself. So I am one of the 10,000 people that you see here. And you can see there is Arabic, Mandarin, Spanish, German, Russian, and Farsi, Persian. So we have a very strong Iranian community here in Halifax. Dalhousie University was founded in 1818. We have about 18,000 students. So the Faculty of Engineering has 95 faculty members. So again, you will see it's not a really big faculty compared to University of Toronto. But we still have a critical mass that allows us to do great things. There's about 450 graduate students for 1,600 undergraduate students. This is a view of Halifax. So you can see it's a really beautiful city with the Atlantic Ocean not too far. So that makes it a very nice, livable city. Now, the Department of Industrial Engineering has 13 faculty members. We have about 70 graduate students, 200 undergraduate students at any given time. And we have 3 research groups. So we have the healthcare people, the group working on maritime risk and safety. And then we have our Sparks group. So we deal with sustainability, production, remanufacturing analytics, and optimization, large scale optimization. So the Sparks group has 5 faculty members. So Dr. Venkatadri, Dr. Ahmed Saif, Dr. Gassemi, and Dr. Ashfari. And myself, so 5 faculty members. So, I mean, you probably recognize from the names that 2 of the 5 faculty members hail from Iran. So, again, this shows you how important this presentation is for me to be addressing people in Iran, given the strong connections that we have in the department here. We have 2 postdoc fellows, 9 PhD students, 11 master's students, but that changes as people graduate, leave, and we get new students. I'm not even including the Master of Engineering students that we have. And we have some collaborators working with us. So that's about the people in the Sparks group. We have 3 main research areas: productivity engineering, sustainability engineering, and the tools that we use, so prescriptive analytics. And so some of you will recognize areas that you are working in. And again, you're welcome to contact the Sparks group or any of the faculty members and establish collaborations. So Dr. Venkatadri is our specialist in supply chain, smart logistics. So if you go on our website, you will see his email address and how to contact him. Dr. Alireza Gassemi, who is an alumni from Sharif University. So he did his master's, obtained his master's degree from Sharif. And then moved to Canada and did some work in Montreal and joined us in 2010. So he works in maintenance, production planning, prognostic diagnostics, and we're working together on a project for the optimization of large scale resource constraint projects. So he teaches stochastic processes, queuing, reliability, maintenance, and algorithms. We have Dr. Ahmed Saif, so joined us 5 years ago, so I say recently, and we really hired him because of his expertise in large-scale optimization, decision-making under uncertainty, so robust optimization, distributionally robust optimization, simulation-based optimization. And so these are the tools that he uses a lot. And of course, the application would be in OR, so a very wide variety of applications, so humanitarian logistics, energy storing systems, airline crew scheduling, and so on. Dr. Hamid Afshari, so also from Iran. He graduated from Amir Kabir and before moving to Canada. So his research interests are in supply chains, applied optimization, sustainability. And again, there is a subset of his applications of research. And finally, myself. So again, I'm also interested in sustainability, remanufacturing, decarbonization. My background is really in maintenance and reliability. So whenever I work in remanufacturing close to supply chain, I really bring the reliability aspect into it. So you will see with the applications that I've chosen to discuss with you, you'll see the reliability and the maintenance aspect. So, I mean, it allows me to differentiate my work from the bulk of work that is being done in closed loop supply chain. I've done some research work with Air Canada, JAS, so we did some work on aircraft maintenance. Um, so right now we have a very big okay, thank you. I saw the message. Um, so I was we done some work with we're doing a work with the Canadian Navy. So how to schedule and organize the maintenance on these Navy ships. So you can understand these would be a very large resource constraint problems that need solving. A little bit about myself. So I'm originally from the Ivory Coast. So it's in West Africa, an old French colony. So that's why I speak French as well. So I migrated to Canada in 1994, did my bachelor's degree in Quebec, that's the French province of Canada. And after that, I went in the Middle East to work for an oil company, Schlumberger Oilfield Services. So I spent 3 years in the Middle East, mainly in Egypt, where I did prospection work on oil platforms, and then came back for my graduate studies. And my bachelor is in mechanical engineering, but when I worked, I became interested in maintenance issues. So when I came back, I wanted to pursue graduate studies in maintenance and reliability. So I switched to industrial engineering. And yeah, I think industrial engineering is a really great discipline because it allows us to work on projects that are applicable in many different industries. So we're really not bored. Okay. So I started at DAL in 2007. So I've been here since then. It's, as I said, it's a really nice city to live in. So we don't have a big traffic jams and issues that people have in big cities. And with COVID also, as you've seen, Nova Scotia is almost an island, so it was very easy to to control the border and limit COVID-19 contaminations here. And right now we are starting to reopen. So I'm back in my office today, so we're gradually coming back to normal. Okay. So this is the slide that I told you about in the introduction, an overview of our research areas. So as you would recognize, it's the closed loop supply chain. Of course, it begins with the provisioning of raw materials, right? So what we try to look into now, it's really fair trade and ethical sourcing. So if we want to talk about sustainability, typically people focus on the environmental side. But as we'll see later, sustainability has three pillars, right? So you have the economical side that people have been doing since the early 40s or 50s with optimization, so minimize cost, maximize profit. And then recently, in the past 2 decades, environmental issues have been considered. And that's the second pillar. But the third pillar is really the social aspect, right? So you can maximize profit for a company, but then what about the worker? What about the people who are working really hard at the beginning of a supply chain to provide you with these raw materials? So you have to make sure that that wealth that is generated is shared fairly. I know people have already started to, deal with fairness in the supply chain, but they're really dealing with it in terms of companies, how they will share the profit and in the supply chain. But what about the people at the very beginning of the supply chain? So 5 years ago, when we started looking at this, we found many publications dealing with fair trade, but they were mostly qualitative or empirical studies, but nothing really quantitative. We only found one paper in MSOM that had a mathematical model on fair trade. So we started looking into the fair trade issue, the ethical sourcing. So how do you make sure that uh, the steel, or I mean the iron ore that you get is not from a conflict zone, for example, right? So how do you make sure that there's no child labor involved in the production of your material? So that's really important. I think um, researchers are becoming more and more interested in these things. So social issues. So I've seen papers, people dealing with social housing, how to optimize that. You've also heard, and I know some of you are working in humanitarian logistics. So these are all social issues that we think optimization should come into. If we want to make the world a better place, so we have to protect the environment, but we also have to protect the people. Of course, once you have these raw materials, you have to transport them to where they have to be processed. And this is where all these new smart and hyper-connected logistics come into play. The industrial Internet of Things, physical internet, digital twins, decarbonization, green and fair supply chain. And of course, with 5G, you can track in real time where your materials are. So that allows for responsiveness, resilience in the supply chain, and how to quickly recalculate or find ways to fix issues as they arise. Of course, you'll process your raw materials into finished goods, and then you have to distribute them. You have to send them to physical stores, or nowadays with deliveries, I mean, internet online shopping. So things can be delivered directly to the customer. And of course, again, there the new trends are drone delivery, and even electric vehicles or cars, or autonomous delivery systems. So these becomes really interesting problems that have to be tackled. And of course, if you have a drone delivering a package, you may want it to return empty, or you can also redirect it to collect a product that is being sent back in the reverse logistic phase. And this becomes interesting because you have to recover the value, remanufacture the products, if we don't want to keep using the resources from the earth. So again, old topic or old closed loop supply chain, but now we have to adapt and enrich it with the new technologies that are coming up. And of course, I didn't mention machine learning or deep learning here, but in many of these issues, machine learning and deep learning are changing how decisions are being made. So that gives you an idea of what we are working on. And so if you're interested in collaborating with us, feel free to drop us a few lines through email, and we'll see how we can get started. So the first issue that I wanted to talk about is fair trade. So this is work that we've done 3-4 years ago. And it's published in the Journal of Cleaner Production. So you have a title, and it should be available on ResearchGate. If it's not, again, send me an email, and I will gladly share the PDF with you. So in this case here, what we're doing is really studying fair trade versus conventional products, and how to retail them. And as I said before, sustainability has three pillars. So there is the environmental issue, the environmental pillar, the economical pillar, and then there is the social pillar, and that's really important to be included, right? So how do we achieve good social well-being, and making sure that universal human rights and basic necessities are attained? So, what is fair trade? So, as the name says, we're trying to seek greater equality in trading. Of course, it's we as scientists have our ways of doing things. The political world has their own ways of doing it, but we do our thing, hoping that the political realm will follow or act on it. So the idea is really to make sure that the people who are working and contributing to that supply chain are treated fairly, better treated. So fair trade is an independent and third parties certification system. And what they will ensure is that producers, usually farmers or producers in developing world, would get better prices, get decent working conditions, and it will support sustainability in those populations. Typically, it's in, as I said, in developing world. But more and more, even in North America, we're starting to see that some regions have been poorly treated. So at the beginning, when I was introducing Nova Scotia, I mentioned the Mi'kmaq people. So the indigenous people, the people who were in North America before the Europeans arrived. And if you look at it, they've been very, very poorly treated. In some regions in Canada, they don't even have clean drinking water, and that's not fair. That's not appropriate. So, and there's more and more people are realizing what's happening. So it's not always in Africa. It's not always in Southeast Asia that people are suffering, but even in developed countries, people are suffering. And so fair trade is really trying mainly to deal with people in the South, but it can be applied anywhere where people are not being treated fairly. So fair trade has some distinctive features. So one is minimum price. So the farmers or the workers and the traders will decide in a consultation process what should be the minimum price that they should get for the raw material that they're producing. There is also the something called the prepayment. So sometimes the companies will prepay for the goods before they even get them, right? And the idea is to really to help the populations and in those the people in those farms be able to have a revenue that is stable all year round, right? Because when they don't get that, so for part of a year they're really poor, and then when they harvest their goods and they sell them, they have some money. And of course, when there is a lot of money, people will spend very quickly, and then they'll spend the rest of the year very poor. So if there's some prepayment before they start planting and all that, so it gives them at least a way of balancing out their revenue over the year and lift them out of poverty. And also in the prepayments, the idea is also that they don't charge very high interest, right? Okay. So there is also something called social premium in fair trade. So it's really that for each dollar of products sold, there will be a fraction that will go back to the communities of the farmers, and that will be invested in social, environmental, economical development projects. So in some areas, they would use that money to build schools for the kids to go to school, and build small health centers for the farmers and the kids to have access to health care. So generally, that will be between 5 and 10% of the price of the raw material or labor that will go toward social premium. And of course, there is the licensing fees, because in order to use these the labels of fair trade, the companies have to pay the licensing fees to the certification organization, and then they will be able to use the labels on their products. So when you go in the store, you would see some product, fair trade product, will have the logo, so you will know that it's a fair trade product versus a conventional one. So here, very quickly, these are two sketches of supply chain. So you have a conventional supply chain and the fair trade supply chain. So in the fair trade supply chain, you have a producer, and then you have co-ops that will, so it's a group of producers that will pool their product and then sell them to the co-ops, and then the co-op will sell them to the buyers. So this is where the fair trade certification comes into play, and then they'll send it to a distributor, store, and the customer. So each dollar that, or each amount of money that the customer sells, there is a premium that goes, they pay and then goes to the buyer, and then a portion of that will go as social premium to help the communities. Excuse me. Okay, so some numbers in terms of the retail sales and the amount of premium. So these are numbers. The latest that we could get was 2018. So so you can see that the total revenue of sales of fair trade product is about 10 billion euros. So it's significant, and the premiums are about 150 million euros that are sent back to these communities as social premium to be used for, as I said, education, healthcare, and so on. So this is an interesting aspect. So this is why we were motivated to study it. It's becoming important, and for the retail organization and also for the local producers. Okay, so there are many studies in the literature that have compared pricing and production strategies for conventional versus organic produce, but there was very little mathematical modeling in pricing and production strategies for conventional versus fair trade. So that's why we decided to define a framework for modeling the fair trade supply chain, and we proposed a mathematical model to investigate the optimal pricing and demand for a fair trade product that is competing against a conventional product. Because when you go to the store, you would see your normal coffee bag or jar, and then next to it, you would see another box or jar with the fair trade logo. Of course, the fair trade product would be slightly more expensive. So these two products are on the shelves there, and they're competing for the consumer's attention. Okay, so for an organization that would like to, find the social premium interesting and wants to get into it, what are the trade-offs? What are the risks, right? So this is why we undertook this study, and it's really it was a master's students project. So we decided to only include the premium as the social premium feature. There are other features of fair trade that could be included, and again, we want our paper to be a first step, but it's not the end. So the goal is after that to add furthermore characteristics of fair trade. So very quickly, I'll go over the assumption. So we considered a retailer that's offering horizontally differentiated conventional versus fair trade. And the consumers have three choices. So buy the conventional, buy the fair trade, or not buy anything at all. And the retailer is willing to provide, to allow for returns of fair trade products if the customer is not satisfied. Okay. And the social aware and green consumers will extract more utility from the fair trade product. So what we did here, we used utility theory to model how the consumer's willingness to buy a fair trade product will impact the demand given the price. Okay. So I won't dwell too much on this, the formulation. But what we did was that we were able to define the threshold where the utility threshold, where at the intersection of buying nothing and buy the conventional. And then there is another threshold where the consumer would decide to buy fair trade. So using utility theory, we can find these thresholds. And then from there, we can calculate the demand and then write the optimization model to maximize the profit for the retailer. And of course, in one feature that we had here was really the shelf space is limited. So the fair trade and the conventional products are competing for that same area of shelf space. So we wrote the counter conditions and solved them and obtained lots of results. But what I really want to share here is the optimal strategy. So what we're showing here, so on the x-axis, you have the cost for the conventional product, and then on the y-axis, you have the cost of the fair trade product. So we're finding the strategies based on the ratio of those costs. So if you're a retailer and okay, so if you're a retailer and you have a cost of conventional that is somewhere here and your cost of fair trade that is here, then the intersection will give you the optimal strategy that you have to have. So in this case, it makes sense because you see that the cost of conventional is very high compared to the cost of fair trade. So in that case, your strategy would be only fair trade. Okay. So if it's here, for example, then you see that your cost of fair trade is higher than the cost of conventional. In that case, the strategy would be conventional. So the SC here is the same thing, but this is conventional where the shelf constraint is binding. Okay, so this means we have used the whole shelf space for the conventional product, and it makes sense because if I leave the laser pointer there, you would see that the cost of conventional is significantly lower than the cost of fair trade. So this means that you have to do conventional and you have to fill up the whole space because they will have high demand for that product. Okay, so this is one way of reading this. But what's really interesting is in green, you have all the strategies for conventional, and in blue, this is the areas for fair trade. In white, that the two strategies for having both products on the shelf space. So you can see that the area for the fair trade is fairly large. So this means that there is really room for the retailers to engage in that type of provisioning, right? Making sure that they can engage in fair trade. But even if they don't want to do only fair trade, there is a nice area where it's possible to have both conventional and fair trade product on the shelves. Um, so if you go to a paper, you'll see that there are many, many more experiments that we've done. So one here that I'm showing is the impact of consumers' valuation for fair trade products. So this is how much of a value fair trade product and how willing they are to pay extra to get that fair trade product. So in terms of profit, the profit is increasing, but what's really happening is that at the beginning, when the consumer is not for low values of valuation, there is no fair trade, there's no demand for fair trade, but everything is conventional. And of course, at some point, when the willingness to buy fair trade increases, the demand will start increasing. And of course, if fair trade is increasing and they're competing for the same shelf space, of course, the demand for conventional will decrease. But what's interesting is that I'm not saying it's necessarily this point here, but there must be a sweet spot somewhere for the retailers to engage in fair trade. Okay, so that's the first issue that I wanted to discuss with you. So I'll pause here to take some questions. Okay, so how did we find the areas of the strategies? So when we solve the counter conditions, the different conditions that we had with the counter in the counter condition define these boundary areas. Okay, so this is how we were able to find these to have a limit of these different strategies. So these come from solving the counter conditions. I didn't. So let me see. I didn't want to show too much. Yeah, I deleted the. I deleted the slides. But if you go, let me see. If you go onto the paper, you will see how we got these different areas. So in the appendix, we show the counter, and then for each case, we would have different conditions that we have solved. And these are the conditions that give us these boundaries, okay? And from the boundaries, so you will see there is CF greater than CF1, CC less than CC1. And so these so you'll see CF1 is here, CC1. So this is how we get these boundary using the counter conditions. Okay. So the second issue or topic is supply chain, closed loop supply chain design, and in particular pre-sorting. So we've done a bit of work on closed loop supply chain. For example, this one we brought the aspect of reliability and product greenness in the design of closed loop supply chain. And then in this other one, we dealt with multi-component, multi-product closed loop supply chain. And this is because typically it's not a criticism, but when people are dealing with closed loop supply chains, they assume that the product there is only a core component that they extract. They don't account for the bill of material, and they don't account for the reliability of a component when they open up. But you can have a system that looks really nice, but then when you start disassembling it, this part is bad, these other parts we can't even use, this one is so, this one is really good. So to assume that your product is only one part, it's not very realistic. Okay, so that's why we include. I mean, we made this extension to have multi-component and multi-product systems in the closed loop supply chain, and then we allow for transshipment and economies of scale between customer zones. But that's not the one that I would like to talk about today. It's this one here, where we included pre-sorting in closed loop supply chain. So it came because we realized that e-waste recovery is very difficult. So here are some numbers, and Europe is really doing well, but even with that, you can see they're not even close to a 50% collection and recycling rate. Asia is 10%. North America don't even think about it, right? It's very poorly done here in North America. So that's really not good. The problem also is that even when they collect them, they send them into third world countries, and then the pollution happens there. So again, I was talking about social aspects of supply chain or closed loop supply chain. This is something really bad, right? All the consumption happens in North America or Western world, and then they send these products into the South, poor countries, to be dismantled, to be recycled there, and the pollution happens there, and it kills people there. So there is something really not fair, or not socially fair in here, or morally fair, right? But anyway, these things, it happens. So the products can be difficult to disassemble. They're toxic. Products and components variety. So the bill of material is varying from one version to the other one. You need to train labor to do it. Also, you need the consumer participation. So not everybody returns e-waste. It's so easy to just throw it away, right? Of course, product designers make sure that every year there is a new version. They update the processor, or they include a little bit more RAM, and then they market it, and people just go and buy new ones. So that's e-recovery is really challenging, and it's difficult. You can also see e-waste generated per capita. So Canada can't be really proud. The US not so much. Germany, Japan. So there's a lot of e-waste that's generated. So why not recover it, right? And but do it better. So at the time of that, when we published that paper, there were more than 1,300 articles in the last decade on closed loop supply chain. And of course, we focus on the review papers, and one of them that you probably know if you work in supply chain is all the work that Govindan has done. And so for the paper that I'm presenting here, we reviewed 15 review articles. Okay. So we found that the research gaps were really dealing with uncertainty, product quality and reliability is not well covered. So as I said before, my background is in maintenance and reliability. So again, for me, when I deal with these things, I take the reliability quality lens. So as people say, if you have a hammer, all your problems are nails. So that's what I do. So multi-component, multi-product, and multiple time period networks are usually ignored, and multi-objective configuration has received lower coverage. these are the conclusions of our review, and we've tried to deal with some of them, but we haven't been able yet to deal with everything. So there is room for a combination of many of these things, right? And recently, I've seen in the literature that robust optimization, stochastic programming, and distributionally robust optimization are really trending. So if you're a young researcher or a PhD student working on these things, these are the areas where you should really, the areas you should target. So robust and distributionally robust optimization, especially when you go and collect end of life items, you really don't know what the quality and the reliability of the products that you're going to get. So that's really a big thing. And how do you classify? How do you decide what type of remanufacturing you're going to do? That's a very important question. And this is an area where I think machine learning and classification will be very, very useful, because I'm not a specialist in machine learning or deep learning, but I'm talking with the young PhD students that are around me, and we think that it should be a promising area to get some data from the products even before the customer returned them, some pictures or some diagnostics data, and send that into a deep learning machine or a classification model. And that will be able to tell the consumer or the third-party collector, based on the information that I have on the product, this is a product that should be remanufactured, or this is a product that should be dismantled for spare parts, right? So the decision can be made even before the customer returns the product. So these new techniques become really interesting in improving the level of remanufacturing that can be done. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time. In the paper, this is some of the questions that we addressed. Why are there pre-sorting centers? Why? What is the effect of return quality on network configuration? What is the effect of pre-sorting efficiency on network configuration? How does carbon cap and trade influence network configuration? How does uncertainty in returns quality affect the network configuration? So these are some of the questions that we wanted to ask. So the first question, I can answer it without exactly, yeah. So thank you for blockchain. I didn't want to talk about blockchain, but yes, you're right. Because you want the information to trickle through all the partners in the reverse logistic, and you also want that to be truthful. So yeah, blockchain will make sure that you can gather information that is truthful, that can be trusted when you're running your classification models. So we had a project with a company here that's collecting empty bottles for water or sweet drinks, aluminum cans. So I don't want to name the names of these cola companies. So we realized that most of the trucks that we're collecting, they were transporting air, because once you drink that bottle, it's over and you just throw it. It's air that you're transporting. And so with that company, the idea was to take these things and then crush them so that they use less volume, so that you can put more in the trucks and then send them. So the idea in that case was really by decreasing the volume of compacting your recyclables, you could fit more, and then the transportation cost and the emissions would be reduced. The emissions per can that you transport would be reduced. So that would make it more interesting. So the idea came of adding the pre-sorting centers, right? So here is the network that we had. So we have some customer zones. Okay. So when the customers are done with a product, they send it to the collection center. So there can be no pre-sort or there can be a pre-sort. So if there's a pre-sort, the bad products are sent directly for recycling center where they'll be recycled and the material extracted. Now, the pre-sorted product will be sent to an inspection and a recycling center. Now, your pre-sort is not necessarily efficient or 100% efficient. So some unsorted product will also be sent there and they'll be processed, and at the inspection stage, again, they'll be scrapped. But the thing is, you would have transported these products for nothing. Okay? And when the refurbishment takes place, they're sent back or sold back to the customer zone. So that was the network configuration. I mean, network that we considered. Of course, the inspection and refurbishment center could have different sizes: small, medium, and large. Okay. So we wanted to see the impact of having pre-sort on the configuration of the network and the total emissions due to transportation and so on. Okay, so again, the formulation is in the paper. It's Wednesday afternoon. I don't want to show you all these mathematical formulation, but what's really important are the results that we obtained. So in this case here, we're showing the effect of varying quality on the profit and the carbon emissions, right? So we have 12 scenarios here, from low quality to very high quality of returns. So at the beginning, because there is really low quality, so the system is using 3 pre-sorting centers and a very small recycling center, refurbishment center. And it makes sense because the quality is bad. So most of the items would be directed toward the recycling center, and very few would go to the IRC, the reprocessing center. And because very few are going there, there's no reason to have a very large size. So a small size would do that. So, but as the quality increases, you would see that the size of the IRC will change, right? So it will go from small to medium, and then after that to a large IRC. And of course, the number of the pre-sorting centers will also start dropping at some point. And of course, as the quality increases and you pre-sort more very early, you don't transport more, your carbon emissions will decrease because there is less transportation in that network. We also studied the impact of inefficiency. Inefficiency of the pre-sorting center. Okay, because remember again, our goal was really to study the impact of pre-sorting. So if the pre-sorting is efficient, so beta here is a fraction of poor quality return that are sent to the IRC. So when beta is 0.05, it means the efficiency is 95%, so very efficient. So of course, if your pre-sorting process is very efficient, you would, and here you see the quality is going from bad to high quality, right? So poor quality to high quality. So if your efficiency is really good, so you would start pre-sorting very early on, and you will keep pre-sorting until almost at the end, right? Of course, when the quality is very extremely good, you don't need to do as many pre-sorting. So this is why the number of pre-sorting centers decreases, right? Because at some point, the quality is so good, you don't need to do pre-sorting. You just send everything through, right? So what we realize is that, so when if your pre-sorting is really poor, not very good, you would wait before you start pre-sorting, and you will start end pre-sorting very early on. So what this taught us was that yes, you can add pre-sorting, but you need to calibrate and make sure that there is really good efficiency in your pre-sorting operations, because that will impact how early or how late you will have to start doing your pre-sorting. And of course, in another experiment, we analyzed the impact of the transportation cost on the pre-sorting centers. And so, yeah, the graph looks messy, but it's very interesting. So let's start with the blue dotted one. So the quality is not, the quality is poor, right? So so the blue dotted line is here, right? So if the quality is poor, what you would I will show, right? So if the quality is poor, you really want to send it straight to the recycling center, right? So you really don't even want to do any pre-sort. You want to quickly send it to the recycling center because the quality is poor. So this is why you see that we start with very low pre-sorting centers, right? And of course, because the transportation cost is low, you can afford to also send some through the IRC, because transporting is not very expensive. So you can afford to send some there. So this is why you see that it will start with a very low number of pre-sorting. But as the transportation cost increases and your quality is poor, you need to do more pre-sorting, because if you don't do pre-sorting, then it will cost you more. Right? Because you'll be transporting really bad product, and then when it gets to the IRC, then you realize that you shouldn't have sent it there. So this is why you see that we get these type of stairs up to your maximum. Okay, so for Q is equal to 0.3 again, so it's the same shape, but of course it gets delayed, right? Because the quality is slightly better. So you wait a little bit before you jump to opening another preset. It's because the capacity will be exceeded later. Okay. Now, of course, if we get to Q is equal to 0.9, right? So you see that it's a straight line. So if the quality is 0.9, so the quality is good. So what you're trying to do here is, let's pre-sort as much as we can so that we can remove a very few, the 10% of bad that we have. And if we do that, then we will see that the transportation costs will drop dramatically, okay? And this is why in this case, it opens 3 pre-sorting centers. Now, when the quality is extremely high, it drops. So you see at 0.9, it was at 3, but at 0.95, it dropped to 0 pre-sorting. And that's because the quality is so good, we don't pre-sort, just send everything through, okay? The inspection center will deal with it, and they will catch the very few bad apples or items that are there, and then get it out. So we don't need to spend money opening the pre-sorting center. So at first, this graph baffled us, but we were able to find the reasons why the model was behaving the way it was behaving. And then, interestingly, we decided that we would compare carbon cap and trade. Canada is a very interesting case with carbon cap and trade. So Canada is a federation. So as I said, you have a country, Canada. So you have the federal government, but then you have 10 provinces and 3 territories. So each province has its own prime minister and its own government. Okay, so it's very difficult to get these carbon cap and trade policies sorted out. So California started carbon cap and trade, and the province of Ontario joined, and another province, Quebec, the French province, also joined. So there were three big provinces. I mean, California is big; it can be a country on its own. But Ontario and Quebec are the largest provinces in Canada here. So, they, so when these two joined California to implement a carbon cap and trade market, it was really a big thing, right? So unfortunately, some elections happened, and Ontario, they went from a liberal government to a conservative government, and they're typically pro fossil fuels and against uh, quote unquote environmental protection. So they decided that they were not going to join with Quebec and California in the carbon cap and trade market. So Ontario withdrew from that carbon cap and trade. So now it's only California and Quebec. So we don't know where it's going to go. All the other provinces have decided to implement some form of carbon cap. And that's because the federal government is forcing them to do something. But so there is a fight between the federal government and the provincial government as to what we do. Anyway, long story short, for us, we wanted to analyze what these two policies would do on the design, the structure of our network. So we run the carbon cap and the carbon cap and trade, and these are the figures that we obtain. So of course, in a carbon cap, a given industry or company would get a maximum carbon emission. So if they exceed that, they pay a tax on it. Cap and trade, they have the same cap, but if they're below, they can sell it and make money, or if they're above, they can buy from a company that has some emissions to sell, right? So that's the difference. So as you can see here, it's very, very contrasted. So in the carbon cap, you see we have, at the beginning, we have, so this is as the carbon cap value increases, right? And of course, the government don't really know where they have to be. So that's why we varied the carbon cap and wanted to see how the network would change. So if the carbon cap is very low, you get one pre-sorting center with a large IRC. So you can see what's happening. So it changes from one pre-sorting to two pre-sorting large, two pre-sorting large, and then three pre-sorting medium, three pre-sorting large, three pre. So you see that the structure of a network changes a lot. But when we go in the carbon cap and trade, you can see it's 3PL, three pre-sorting large, three pre-sorting large. So this means that for a decision maker, it's very easy for them, right? So although they don't know how the carbon cap would trend, they can conservatively build their network and know for sure that it won't change much. It will stay stable regardless of how the carbon caps change. And for a decision maker, that's really interesting because these are facilities that you need to build and you can't increase capacity just like that. So under a carbon cap, depending on how your carbon caps change, you will need to adapt your network to deal with it. But under a carbon cap and trade, you have less variability in the structure of your system. So that becomes interesting. Of course, at the beginning, building three pre-sorting a large can be expensive, but that can be amortized over the year. So anyway, what we found here is that the carbon cap and trade tends to give you a network structure that is less affected by the changes in the carbon cap. So that brings a bit of certainty to the decision maker. So we had a couple of conclusions here. So the pre-sorting center, they act as a triage center. So they bring triage function. Pre-sorting centers open up as the quality grade increases and they are closed at really high quality. pre-sorting effect on network, so early opening and later closing, so that's better. So, and then how does carbon cap and trade influence the network configuration? So what's really interesting is very little change in configuration structure in the cap and trade, and this has really big implications for policy. So if they were to ask me, Nova Scotia were to ask me, I mean, based on this small study, of course, we will need to do more studies, right? But it looks like the carbon cap and trade would be a more interesting policy to use. So how does uncertainty in return quality affect network configuration? So it's conservative design to handle all situations. Of course, it has lower profits, and yeah, so I didn't show it. So you will see that the profit values, yes, I mean, on the graphs here, it's difficult to see, but they tend to be slightly lower. Okay. So I'll pause here for questions before I get to the third one. Thanks. Okay, so this is about the retailing of remanufactured items. So again, we've published some few papers in that area. So I'll give you a very quick rundown. When I typically give this presentation here in North America, I ask people in the room how many of them have an iPhone or an Apple product, and typically probably 80% of the in their people in the attendance would raise their hand because they have an iPhone or an iPad. There are very, myself, I'm an Android user, so but anyway, but the same thing. So when I ask them, have you ever read the Apple's repair terms and conditions, and most of them would say no. But if you have a Samsung or another OnePlus phone, whatever, Redmi, whatever phone, it's very likely that you have not read the terms and conditions for repairs. Okay, so for this, we have read the terms of references, and I mean the terms and conditions, and there are a few things that are really interesting. So one is here. So in repairing your product under your product warranty or extended service contract, Apple may use new, used, or reconditioned parts. Right? Okay, new, used, or reconditioned. So you send your product for repair. You bought it brand new, but you send it to repair, and you hope that they'll use a new one to repair it, but it's not necessarily the case. And the reason is because there is money to be made. Of course, they're protecting the environment by the same token, but there is money to be made. And of course, Apple also sells refurbished products, and I've bought many refurbished products from Apple, and I can tell you that the warranty is the same as a new one. So for them, they offer a 1-year warranty, so that's the same warranty that they offer on a brand new one. Okay, so why would such a successful company be doing this? So as I said before, it's because it's profitable for them, but it's also good for the environment. Okay, there is many advantages, so I won't spend too much time, but in Europe, it's about $40 billion, and that was in 2015 in the remanufacturing industry. For automotive parts, it's about 33 billion in 2016. So there are some advantages, right? So there are many studies that would say that if you use a remanufactured product, you're saving about 50% of the energy needed, 33% of the labor that you need, and up to 80% of raw material. So that's really important for protecting the planet, right? And of course, we also divert these products from landfills and uh, uh, producing harmful emissions, right? Now, there are some barriers. So there are concerns about quality. So customers, when they see remanufactured or refreshed second-hand product, they say, do I really want to buy that? What's the quality? And from the manufacturer's side, it's what we call cannibalization. So again, you have a new product that you're selling, and then you have a refurbished product that does the same thing. You fear that consumers will buy the remanufactured one because typically it has a lower price. And then if they buy the manufactured one, they won't buy your new one, so you would lose profit. So these are the type of issues that people are concerned with. So yeah, so we decided to study a bit of these issues. And if you go in the literature, there are many definitions of manufacturing. So I've put three here, but the one that I preferred is the one in the middle here. So there is a British standard, BS 8887-2. So it defines manufacturing as a process of returning a used product to at least its original performance with a warranty that is equivalent to or better than that of the newly manufactured product. Okay. So, as someone interested in maintenance and reliability, I said this is the definition that I want because they mentioned warranty. So, warranty is related to reliability. So, for me, that pleases me very well, right? So, because again, what it does is that it ensures that the manufactured product is the same as a new in performance. And because you're giving a warranty that is equivalent or better than the newly, then you're giving confidence in the consumer to buy your manufactured product. Okay? So this is really interesting from the consumer's point of view or from the planet point of view. But what about the manufacturer, right? Because of the cannibalization. Now they're giving a remanufactured product that has the same performance as the new one. It has the same warranty. It is cheaper. Now the manufacturer would say, "Oop, what happens? Is it going to affect my demand for a new one? Is it going to affect the profit?" Okay, so this is what we did. Before I go any further, I mean, again, this is a closed-loop supply chain that you have typically seen. But what's interesting is in the remanufacturing stage and the value recovery. So you have repair, refurbish, recondition, and recycle. And I know in the literature people use one term for the other one, but these are pretty different terms, right? And the reason is there is an energy intensity in these in these operations, right? So reduce means buying less. So do I really need two cell phones or do I need three laptops, right? So you need to reduce consumption. So this is really the least amount of energy, right? Now, if I say, okay, you can reuse, okay? So this is probably collecting something that is working and then transporting and selling it somewhere else, right? So that's really reusing it. Now, repair. So probably need to open up and change some parts. So already you see there is a bit more of energy and you probably need to buy some parts and put them in there. So there is more involved there. Refurbishing is more advanced because it's no longer a few parts, but you can even change some modules, you can upgrade the processor, you can upgrade the software. So there is a bit more energy involved there. Now, reconditioning means you really take the whole thing apart and then you take the parts that are good and then you inspect them, you clean them, and right, so you recondition the parts. Now, recycling, this is completely, we will have to break it down and then we really have to extract the material. So if there is gold, so we need to smelt it and at high temperature so that we can extract the gold of the plastic from. So recycling is really at the the level of the material level. So this is why you can see that recycling bring it back to right before part fabrication. Okay, reconditioning, so it's before the module assembly because that's individual parts. Refurbishing is at the module part, so that's why it happens after the module assembly and before the product assembly. So this gives you um, uh, a visual definition of these different terms, right? But the remanufacturing is this whole process. Okay. So, what is a warranty? A warranty is a contract between a manufacturer and a customer that ensures that the manufacturer will repair or replace the product if it fails, right? And of course, there is a warranty period that is offered, right? Okay. There are different. There is a taxonomy of warranty policy, so I won't get into into that. But there are references in the literature. You can go and find them. Um, in the paper that we published in 2017, we reviewed papers and found issues at the different stages of the remanufacturing process. Again, the paper is available and you can refer to it. But there are really interesting problems to be to deal with. Okay, so this is the paper that I'm going to be presenting now. So it's optimal pricing and production strategies for new and remanufacturing product under non-renewing free replacement warranty. So what is a free replacement warranty? So the consumer doesn't pay anything if the product fails in the warranty period. Now, it's non-renewing, meaning that the initial period that is given is not renewed after a repair. So let's say that I buy a product and its warranty is one year or 12 months. So if it fails after 4 months, it's within warranty period, so I can bring it back, they will repair it or they will replace it. But when they do so, I only have 8 months of warranty left. Okay, if it fails 8 months, let's say 6 months after that, and they replace it, then it was 4 plus 6, so it failed at the 10th month. I only have 2 months of warranty left. So this is non-renewing. In the renewing cases, I buy it, I have a 1 year warranty, 12 months warranty. If it fails after 4 months, they will replace it with a new one or repair it. So if it's a renewing warranty, I get a new 12 months warranty. Okay, so that's the difference with the 12 months renewing and versus non-renewing free warranty. Okay, so in this case, we went with non-renewing free replacement warranty. So the research question that we had were, how should the manufacturer set the prices for the new and remanufactured product under a given warranty length? How does the warranty length affect the prices, demand, and profit of both new and remanufactured products? And does an optimal warranty length exist, and what factors influence it? So here again, we use utility theory to model it. So we had a monopolistic manufacturer, and so we had a production plant. So we had 2 periods in the manufacturing period. So in the first period, only new products are sold. In the second period, new or remanufactured or both will be sold. Now, each product can be only remanufactured once, so that's an assumption. In reality, it can be 2 or 3 times, but we didn't want to get in there. Return new products in the first period are remanufactured. So in the first period, we sell new. So if for some reason they fail during and they're returned to the manufacturer, then the manufacturer used these returns to create a remanufactured product that are sold in the second period. And that's what Apple does. So people return products and then they remanufacture them and resell them. So as I said, it's a non-renewing free replacement warranty. At the start, we assume that the warranty length is the same for new and remanufactured, and this is what Apple, Samsung, and all these companies do. Um, so the failure times in this case, we assume to follow the exponential distribution, and this is really true for e-waste. Electronic devices are typically the lifetimes follow the exponential distribution. So using the renewal theory, we can find the number of average number of failures, and then we can find the warranty costs. So what here is the decision sequence. So the manufacturer decides the price for the new product in the first period, the price of a new product in the second period, and the price of a remanufactured product in the second period. At the beginning of the first period, they announce the price of a new, okay, and then they sell them, and then there are failures and returns. So these are used to remanufacture, and then these remanufactured products are sold in the second period. At the beginning of a second period, the manufacturer announces the price of a new in the second period and the price of a remanufactured in the second period. And this is if they decide to do remanufacturing. So this is the utility function for the customers that are buying the new product. So Z is the valuation that the consumers have for the new product. PN here is the price of the new. And then this is where the warranty. So delta N is the sensitivity of the customer to the warranty period. So if you're selling your product without warranty, the consumer will be less likely to buy it. And of course, as you increase the warranty, the consumer becomes more likely to buy it. The problem is, after 2, 3, or 4 years of warranty, it doesn't make a difference. So this is why in this case, we have a square root function, but what we really want, any concave function would do the work, right? So as you start increasing, right, the interest of the customer increases, but at some point it will flatten out, right? So any concave function would work here. So anyway, so this term here represents the consumer sensitivity to the warranty period that is offered. So this is for the utility for buying a new product, and this is the utility for buying a remanufactured product. Okay, so the consumers can buy new, or they don't buy anything in the first period. In the second period, the consumers can also buy new, buy remanufactured, or buy nothing. So these are the demand function. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Then we get the optimization problem. So we want to maximize the profit. So this is the price, this is the cost, and this is the warranty cost. And then we multiply that by demand. And of course, this here is the amount of remanufactured products, okay? And this is the amount of failed products. So we make sure that this is the amount of failed that can be, this is the amount of failed that are returned, and this theta is a fraction that can be remanufactured. So this is the amount that can be remanufactured. This is the actual demand for remanufactured. So this is how much we will sell in the second period. Of course, we cannot sell more than what we can remanufacture. So that's what this constraint is. So again, counter-curve conditions and solve them, and the details are in the paper. But what we found was really interesting, and this is again represented in a graph here. So you have a ratio of the cost of new versus the cost of remanufactured. Okay, so if you're in manufacturing engaging in this, you really need to know. So you know the cost to produce a new one. You have an idea of the cost to remanufacture. Then at that point, you try to see, based on those two, you would find what your optimal strategy is. So if I put my the laser here, so it means the cost for new is here, and then the cost for remanufacturing is here, right? So this point here, you see that the cost for new is larger than the cost for remanufacturing, right? So This is why the decision will be to remanufacture, right? So this is strategy R, only sell remanufacturing and use all the returns. But if I position the cursor here, you will see, again, in this case, the cost of remanufacturing is very high, but the cost of new is very small, right? So this means in that case that it will be a strategy only new, okay? Of course, I'm using two extreme cases to illustrate it, but the mathematical modeling will give you the exact boundaries here, and this is how we delineate these policies. So region 1 here is only sell new. Region 2, you sell both new and remanufactured. And you don't use all the returns. In region 3 here, you produce both, so new and remanufactured, and you use all the returns. And then here it's where you do all the remanufacturing and you use all the returns. Okay, so here what we're trying to show is that doing remanufacturing is not really bad, because you see your region for new doesn't change. It's always the same. But the region where you do remanufacturing is really large. And of course, again, I don't want to go into all the details. We had some conditions. So this beta here is the market size in the second period. So if somehow the manufacturer is able to do more marketing and increase the market size in the second period, you see that they will sell more of new and remanufactured than if they don't do any marketing to increase the market base, right? So this is what the comparison of these two blue regions are showing. And here, what we're showing now is how the returns are used. So again, if the market size increase, the manufacturer will be more inclined to use to use all of the returns to do remanufacturing. And again, that's very interesting in terms of the planet and for the manufacturer. So what we found, again, that's another theorem in the paper, is that whether the manufacturer engages in remanufacturing or not depends on the warranty length and depends on the ratio between the production and the remanufacturing cost. Right? So that rho is that ratio between remanufacturing cost and cost for new manufacturing. And so it's represented here. So any ratio rho that is before this threshold rho 1 always produce remanufactured. If it is between rho 1 and rho 2 and the warranty is between a threshold value, below a threshold value W2, always produce remanufactured. And if rho is between rho 2 and rho 3 and W is between W1 and W2, always produce remanufactured. And if rho is greater than rho 3, never produce remanufactured product. So these would allow a manufacturer to find where they are and decide what policy to implement. Oops. So influence of warranty length. So we've done a study also here. So you can see as the warranty length increase, I don't want to spend too much time commenting the price and demand, but I'm focusing on the profit. So as the warranty increase, you see that the profit will increase and then it will decrease. Of course, there is a positive aspect. So if you increase the warranty length, consumers are reassured. The warranty signals quality, so they're more inclined to buy it. So you get more demand. So this is why the profit increased. But at one point, you have too much demand, and of course, because you have a warranty, then you will have more failures, and failures cost to repair. So your profit will start decreasing. So what it means is that there is a really sweet spot for the manufacturer to offer that warranty length that doesn't impact the overall profit. Okay. So in terms of concluding remarks, so I explored three themes: fair trade, pre-sorting, optimal pricing, and with warranty, remanufactured product. Future extension, of course, we need to consider fair trade in products with more than one ingredient. That's what we did. And we didn't include minimum price. We didn't include prepayment. So these would be things to consider. Using advanced robust optimization to deal with uncertainties in collection rate, quality, and processing efficiency. We use some robust, very the Mulvey type robust in the pre-sourcing paper, but we want to use advanced distributional robust optimization in that case. Of course, we want to consider more complex warranty models. So in the case that I just showed you, we were only doing non-renewing warranty, but what happens if you allow the warranty period to renew? And of course, as I discussed earlier, using machine learning and deep learning methods for remanufacturing. Thank you very much.